If I'm that guy, you have to be careful who you share those undeveloped ideas with, right?
Yeah, something we've put in place in our company and in some of our clients too is this idea of vision, decision, execution. It's a triangle. So on each of the points, you need one person to own that point, and any one person can do, we'll say 70% of one and 30% of another, but you definitely cannot do all three. So you could have someone who does 70% vision and then 30% decision, but then there's someone who does 70% decision, then maybe 30% execution.
Are you tired of working more for less profits in your home service business? What if I could show you $100,000 in hidden annual profits in your business in less than 3 minutes? Would you be interested? And not only show you where, but how to create that 100K in 6 months or less without additional advertising or marketing spend guaranteed. Just go to sharpenthespearcoaching.com to see how truly simple it is. That's sharpenthespearcoaching.com. Do it now. And we are back on STS, Sharpen the Spear podcast, with another incredible guest. Brandon Gano is with us. And this conversation, well, I know you're going to enjoy it because you enjoy all of them. And that's why you tune back in. And that's fantastic. So, Brandon, without further ado, no one knows Brandon better than Brandon. Give us some backstory, bring us up to speed so we can get into the conversation.
Richard, thank you for having me. First of all, you were a guest on my podcast. Now we're swapping. We're on the other sides of the mic, so to speak. So very excited to be here. Honestly, I was hoping you were going to know me because I don't really know who I am. All jokes aside.
That's another episode, Brandon. That's the therapy
right.
episode. We'll do that.
Is this a self-help, like a therapy session? What is this, Richard? What are we doing here? But no, so I'm an entrepreneur by heart. I've started a number of companies. I've sold some of them. Some of them have failed. They've been nothing but learning, and from that aspect, all have been a success. And now we're here. My most recent company, which I was actually part of when I interviewed you, What If, we were acquired a couple of months ago by HumanOp, and now I'm the COO of HumanOp. We are helping people understand themselves at a much deeper and scientific level. So I do actually really know who I am, and that's what I hope to help more people do as well.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, it's this is an important topic, and I do want to dive into your new endeavor here, who you guys are with, what you guys do too. So we'll be sharing some of that. But let's kind of break into this because a lot of this, all of us are business owners, right? Primarily all my listeners are business owners, and business is a difficult thing to navigate on all levels. Okay, there's all these things that you have to do. As a lot of people know, on my story is I did the thing. I did what I liked. I built water features and still sculptures, and I did all that stuff business. Well, someone else can do that. Well, that doesn't really work in the beginning. You got to pay attention to the story. So let's talk about that because we're kind of aligned in this way. Let's dive into that all a little bit.
Yeah, let's dive right in. Where do we want to start when talking about business? Because my personal philosophy is that we overcomplicate it, but we don't need to. There's a couple of things that if we just got really right, our business would be a whole lot easier. So you tell me, where are we starting?
What could be better than starting with that? Let's start with that. I'm interested already.
Yeah. So, what I found running my own business, selling that business, I didn't realize that I was dumb, so to speak, right? Like I had to simplify things down to the level where a kindergartner could understand it, because for me, that's the only way I could really process it and thrive with it. Little did I know that was actually what drove the success of that company. Then you fast forward into joining my business partner, Sean, at What If, becoming a fractional COO, going into other companies, and I would just oversimplify things. I was like, all right, please explain it to me like I'm 5, because I have no idea what you're doing. It might be landscaping. It might seem simple, but please help me. Help me understand this. And we would do that, and then their business would get better because they would explain it to their employees in that really simple manner. And they could explain it to their customers in that really simple manner. And I started to think wow, there might actually be something here to this whole simple thing. And then you look at these big, giant, massive companies, and my business partner has way more experience there than I do. And I would start to hear the stories about how he would go into those companies, these Fortune 50 companies, and what he would do and the questions he would ask. And I'm like, wow, you did the same thing. You pretended like you were five. You asked the quote unquote dumb questions that all these smart, very highly paid executives and individuals wanted to give you. But turns out they wanted to hear was the simple answer too. So what we came to realize, and he probably realized this many years before I did, is the harder you make things, the harder you make things. So we just backed it all up and said, okay, let's take away everything possible. What can we get away with not having in our business to where it will actually run successfully? And the whole principle that drove our business model, which is called harmonious operating system for businesses. If you can leverage the 80-20 rule, if you can take away as much as possible, but still get 80% of the result, you're probably going to run a business that's way more scalable and is way more profitable than what you were doing before. So that's really what we did. We went through these 10 disciplines that spell out the word harmonious into these different clients. And it's different. You know, the volumes change based on what business you're in, based on what industry you're in, but the fundamental principles are there. And we said, okay, what can we take away? What do we not need? Or what do we not need right now to really stabilize that foundation and then have a solid foundation to build a company off of, which I know is your jam as well. But that for us was one of the biggest things, is just make it simple.
Yeah, Brandon, I think it's simplicity is over complicated.
Yes.
Okay, so it's I'm totally aligned with you on this because it has to be just. I've trained a lot of people, right? Whether it's fitness training, it's in business. I've trained my kids in sports, and that's what I found got my quickest results was that ability to simplify things so they get it. Because the sooner they get it, okay, and then fitness in the body is called neuromuscular. It's the mind reacting with the body and the muscle, right? So like if the mind knows, it can transfer that knowledge to the muscle quicker. They understand why they're doing it, not just how to do it. Okay, you get greater results, okay, and faster results. So it's a very similar process. I really love that you take this simplistic approach because if we look at even systems, right, any complicated system is built with small, simplistic systems that are then combined. You can't begin complicated and go down to simple, right? So what you've done is you walk into a complicated system, if you will, right? Probably if you're talking Fortune 50, you're talking way too many layers. Okay. So, right. And then you have to reverse engineer this and get back to the simple systems and almost like run by simple systems instead of one large complicated system. Am I tracking with that?
Absolutely. And just make it clear, right? Simple and clarity are two core principles. Have you ever seen those videos where parents ask their kid to make instructions for how to make like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and 3 steps in, the dad has his whole hand in the peanut butter jar because it wasn't clear enough? Like
Right.
that's kind of what comes to my mind when people describe their businesses, because like you just boil it down more. Say, is this as clear as I can possibly be? Is this as simple as I can possibly make it? And if your hand ends up in the peanut butter jar, I mean, well, keep going.
Yeah, I use the dummy approach. So you'll do something and then that's where I come in. This is what I'm really good at as a coach, being dumb. Okay. I'm really good at being dumb. So
You and me
I
are
don't
aligned on
really,
that, by the way.
right. So like, we don't know, I'm air quote, know your business. Okay. We're here to help you with it, but give me something and let me read it. Let me see if I can go through all the steps and come out with the outcome you want. And usually I can't. Okay. I go, so where's it broken? Oh, right here. See the spot? You made an assumption here that I should know how to do something for no reason, but I just should because you know it. All right. So it's not simplified enough. Right. So you got to add a step or 2 steps in here to get me to this next thing to get the actual outcome you want. So it's kind of a fun process for some people. I like it, but I go in there. I was with someone as far as copywriting, even like their interrupt, headline. I'm like, well, who are you speaking to? They're kind of good, but I don't know who you're speaking to. So you have to identify who you're speaking to in this because you don't know if you just read it. And that's me coming with not knowing, right? So it doesn't always mean you're in front of your perfect audience, right? But you should be able to read it. And I'll end with this, but you do a PowerPoint presentation, a keynote, right? Well, I can abbreviate stuff on the screen, right? But it still has to make sense when you read it by itself, even though I'm going to expand on it. That's the simplest way I can describe it, right? It can still say it and you go, okay, I get it by reading it, but as I expand on it, then it's amazing. right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
that's how I kind of think about it.
Yeah,
If that
and I
means
think
anything.
we get lazy. I don't want to be, overcritical or judgy because I'm just as guilty of, as this as anyone else. But this is actually being highlighted to me right now. We're going through, and in our company, we're leveraging AI. I mean, if you're not at this point, if you don't know what AI is, well, stop
You a
listening to this
fool.
and go Google it. You're already behind. Panic. So we're building a bunch of agents, and we call them robots. So we're building all these robots behind the scenes to do things for us, so that we can alleviate the pressure on the human being and the repetitive tasks. It's 2025. We have these tools. Let's leverage them, right? If you are not overly clear and very specific for these robots, they're going to go off the unhinged and they're not going to do things correct. You're going to get error messages. It's wild. So, this is, again, it's just being brought to the forefront of like, if I miss one step, if I'm not explicitly clear on what I want this thing to do, it's going to break and I'm going to want to throw it out the window. But you can't do that because it's invisible. It's in the computer. So it's the same thing with your people, with your systems, your SOPs, and your business. If you can go through with that little level of detail, be specific, be clear, and make it understandable for a 5-year-old, you're going to be off to the races in terms of success.
For sure. I think it's kind of like that encoding the if then statements.
Yeah.
If this happens, then this happens. If this happens, then that happens. Right. So you have to have all those connected. You can't not have a then when an if comes, right? You can't just,
You can. You're just not going to like the
yeah,
result.
it's just it's things are going to go black. Okay. So I really like that, but you're right. It's that ability to break it down. It's funny that AI has this ability to learn. And now, as you're describing it, it has the ability to teach. So it's like,
Man, when you say it that way, now I'm
yeah,
nervous. Now it's taking over.
right. Terminator is coming. It's
We are
coming.
in the matrix.
Well, that's right. So, but it really is. We need to learn from this. And here's the deal: like even saying it that about AI's learning and teaching, everything does. When we podcast, I don't know about you, I listen to my podcasts. I listen when I guess because I want to go. Oh, I shouldn't say that. I I can say that differently, right, for the next one because I'm not doing one. So I'm doing these. So everything is teaching us if you have the mindset to learn, right? And I think AI is a great example because I've never been an early adopter on anything. Okay. But AI, I'm not early, but I'm ahead of the curve. Okay. So I'm not your guy who was in it 3 years ago, but I use it and love it. And like, I had a discussion this morning with a client and his team. They're kind of going back. I go, listen, everything in the world can be used for good or evil. Let's choose good and let's do all the good things we can with AI. Stop even talking about just focusing. Watch what we can do in seconds compared to minutes or hours. Okay. And if you can't
Months.
appreciate that, yeah, you might not be the one to be on this team. So I've really learned to embrace it and I see the absolute value of it. Cause I told him, what did he say? Oh, I could write something. I go, listen, dude, I'm not competing against him holding up this email thing he wrote. I go, I'm not competing to something that can plagiarize the entire world in a second. Okay. And get whatever it wants. I go, you're not outdoing this. Okay. I'm just telling you, you can put your hands up on this one. Okay. Cause you ain't doing it. I believe me. And I can write. Okay. But man, when I can do it this way, I am not going back. That's all I
Yeah,
can
no,
say.
definitely not. I agree with you.
Yeah. It's good stuff. So, along those lines, so that's a great, real world analogy of a great tool, right? That you bring and help simplify a process. Now, there's people going to say they're putting so and so out of a job and this and that, and I'd say, and so what? Do we have to use the buggy whip example? Do we got to go back to buggy whips? The poor
Yeah,
buggy whip manufacturer, he's just, a car came along, he's ruined. Should we not do that? It's hard.
it's such a charged conversation, right? Like, I mean, do you want that to be your job? Like, do you want a
Right.
repetitive task to be your job? Even the creative side, like you just said, like why wouldn't you get 90% there and then add your unique flavor to the end of it, right? Like I don't know why people. It probably is the late adopters now that I think about it, who are just pushing back on change, no matter what the change is, and they just want to stay where they are because it's comfortable. I mean, this opens up the whole conversation of how do you evolve as a human being? How do you grow? This is, again, right up your alley, right? This is what you help people with. But if you're pushing back that hard, why not just pause and try it, right? Like, I mean, I've seen people in our clients' companies who are the same way. They're like, this is my role, this is what I do, and they think it's job security. So I don't know that it's so much, your listeners who are the entrepreneur, the business owner, the executive, but the people that they're leading. This is a real conversation because there is fear there that we need to address, but understanding AI is a leverage point and a tool, not a replacement and an end all be all. That's probably more of the mindset and the direction we need to go in.
Yeah, I think what they're missing is the doors that it's going to open
Yeah.
for
I mean,
them.
it's going to create new jobs too. Let's also
Right.
say that.
People need to be pushed out of the nest, right?
Mm-hmm.
Fly or die. Like, okay, well, sometimes that nudge is what you need to go like, oh, wow, look what I get to do now. And it could be 3 times what you're doing, it could be better and everything else, another direction. It could be something you're so used to being comfortable, you don't realize the change you need. Because comfort, come on, we all know comfort is you're stalled out. There's no growth in comfort. Okay. And there's only 2 directions to go, it's forward and backwards. So when you're stalled out, okay, you're probably not going to go forward. You're going to go backwards, or if you're in the plane scenario, you're going down. Right. So it's that's how we want to really think about this. And again, as people get, I don't know, how am I going to say this, older in the workforce. Okay. So we can blame baby boomers. We can blame Generation X. We can whatever, but we're all going to that point. We're all getting older. Okay. How many people after 20 years of doing something are they still trying to innovate? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Are they thinking of the next thing? How are they doing this stuff? So it's not that they don't have value, but like if you don't have an intentional drive for innovation, meaning how to make this easier, how to get rid of, and again, entrepreneurs are doing that because it's a business thing. I'm talking about, again, the workforce, so from a cultural standpoint, Brandon, if you're building, you need to build innovation into your people. Like that needs to be part of the job description. Like I get it, you're doing this. Well, look, and I'll break it down to the simplest thing. Okay, well you got four mouse clicks to do that move. How can you get it to 3?
Yeah, it's real.
You don't like,
It's the people and the mindset behind those people. But you're right. It is in the culture too. And in our business model, Harmonious, innovation is actually a key component of one of the disciplines order. So one of the O's in Harmonious. And it's not at the forefront. Innovation doesn't have its own discipline because it needs to be systematized. You need to have a process for innovation, which is this deviation point where I see a lot of companies go either very right or very wrong. If you have innovation, think about it like lightning. If you throw lightning down a hallway, what's going to happen? People are going to die because that's dangerous. If you put lightning down a wire, you power rooms. You send power to things, right? It's directed. When you just have ideas, and as entrepreneurs, we are so guilty of this all too often. The next big idea comes in and we just have to act on it. We send that email, we write to our team, we invest in things, we buy software, right? Like we've all done that. I get it. I've done it too. But we don't have a process to actually evaluate if that's in line with our mission, our vision, our culture, the clients we serve. Is it going to get us closer to our vision efficiently, or is it going to delay us? Is it a distraction? Like so many questions that we need to ask. And then once we do evaluate it, what are the metrics of success? Are there KPIs? Is there a target ROI if we're investing in something? Is there maybe a reduction in expenses, whether it's labor, whether it's cost of goods, whatever it may be? And then how do we make it commonplace and roll it out to our company and our people? So right there, just in the example that I painted, we're touching multiple different disciplines. Primarily the people component is where a lot of this stuff goes wrong because the entrepreneur gets excited, they do something, they say, yay, this is it, this is the thing. But as the employees, we're so used to, okay, well, he did that last week and it didn't stick, so I'll chill over here until the next one comes along and I'll act excited and clap. And that's one of those places where you're just spinning your wheels. That is to me the stuck. It feels like you're moving forward, but you're really not going forward or backwards. You're going nowhere essentially.
yeah, I think when you're a visionary, okay, the discipline you need as a visionary is you don't share that vision, that idea fairy drop in. Okay. You don't share that till the process is created. Okay. you're not going to run, if you can have this vision and you're not going to go out and just run it by the people on the floor, okay, so to speak, right? And get some feedback. You don't do that because that's all, they don't know where anything's coming from, right? That's not their job, or you don't need that now. Create the process to accomplish it and then roll it out to the team, then get some feedback and where the hiccup's going to be in this and everything else. Give the little tweaks and this vision is coming true. They're all working towards this vision to make that achieved. So I think you're exactly right there. And I think as owners, founders, CEOs, whatever you are, we have to understand our position in the way of, if I'm the visionary, if I'm the one guiding the ship, okay, I'm not giving specific directions to the engine room on this, that, and this, okay, to keep the engine going. Their job is to keep the engine running. Okay, I'm actually looking at the map. I know when to turn the wheel, right? That kind of thing. I don't have to share that with everyone, right? Because all the other systems in the business are working, right? So we want to kind of think about it that way too. Again, understanding our role. If I'm that guy, you have to be careful who you share those undeveloped ideas with, right?
Yeah, something we've put in place in our company and in some of our clients too is this idea of vision, decision, execution. It's a triangle. So on each of the points, you need one person to own that point, and any one person can do, we'll say 70% of one and 30% of another, but you definitely cannot do all three. So you could have someone who does 70% vision and then 30% decision, but then there's someone who does 70% decision, then maybe 30% execution. So what this looks like in reality is the entrepreneur's excited. They're probably the vision, right? They're out there, they're forward thinking, they see the future. They need to go to no more than these two other people. So definitely not the people on the floor. We're not announcing this, we're not publicizing it. And those other two people are going to say, okay, how would we execute this? And is this a good idea right now? Like, am I seeing this clearly? Have those two people poke holes in it, design the system around it, design the rollout process. When those three people agree on something, then you can roll it out and take it to the floor. But we also want to take this triangle down to all the different departments and discipline in the organization. So that's from a leadership perspective. But if your company's big enough, you have a whole team in marketing, you have an HR team, you have customer service team, you need these three roles in place at all those different levels, because that's how things move efficiently. It's how decisions and information flow between or throughout an organization and between different departments and teams. That's where the old business model is in my opinion broken, because when we have a department head, that's one person trying to wear three hats and they're not doing any one of them well. When you can say you have three people who make up a team of decision, you have the highest likelihood of decisions and information being successful and being perpetuated throughout the organization. So everything you say is spot on, but just it's being careful to know, like, okay, which one of these three hats am I wearing? Which one should I definitely take off in this moment? That's the key.
Yeah. That's pretty brilliant. I really like that triangle example. And I like that dissemination of power, because that's what that is, right? And that creates a balance, because you don't create a little dictator in the department.
No, but
Okay.
what we do,
So
the old business model absolutely does.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah.
now with the triangle, it's all, everyone has say, okay, and they come to the consensus of three, right? But these are three qualified people who understand their boundaries, right? And where they can cross over. And I think that's really, really effective. And I like that you take it throughout the entire company, right? You understand departments and things like that as you work on these somewhat larger companies, right? Because if it just stayed at the top, if it was only at C-suite level, it's not going to be met. There's no buy-in in a department, right? If a department, to me, correct me if I'm wrong, Brandon, if the department is solving these problems, innovating an idea, and they're taking it through this triangular process, right? Their buy-in, for one, is huge. The probability of success, like you said, is massive, and it's something they have hands-on experience. This isn't a thought process. This isn't a thought exercise, right? They're looking for results. So I think it'd be a high probability of success, great buy-in, and quick adaptability, right? it'll be adopted very, very quickly.
Yeah, and let's look at this from a very practical angle, right? The C-suite executives, logically, you would think they would always have the final say on something. I would argue that in this model, let's say you have a marketing problem, and let's even take the CMO out of it. Let's just say you have a marketing team. You have three individuals in these roles. They are highly qualified at what they do. They've been in this company for enough time and they've proven success, right? I mean, you have to use some logic behind this, but they're qualified. They've proven themselves. You give them an assignment. We need a new marketing plan, new marketing campaign. We need a new angle, a new product line, whatever it is. Those three people talk about it. They present the plan. Why would you give more weight to the CEO than to those three people making that decision? He or she has no idea what they do on a day-to-day basis in most cases. And that's not their role either. That's not the CEO's role. I mean, you have to sign off on the checks and the spend and the budget and all that. But these are the experts that you've put in place. So to override their decision, as long as you're in line with the core values, the mission, and the vision of the company, you're not going to trust the people you put in place. That's crazy. Again, that's how businesses stay stuck, because we think that from a hierarchy perspective, things have to flow up. No, things have to flow to the point where they need to flow. And then that person is the decision of yes or no.
Yeah, and what that does too is it creates a very strong company culture.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there's like I said earlier, buy-in, but at the same time you're empowering others. There's proper delegation. This is just a delegation issue. It's not even a matter. This isn't rocket science here. Like, it's understanding. And you're exactly right, Brandon. The CEO doesn't need to know how to be a great marketer. Okay, he needs to understand, like, well, here's their track record. You're going to have metrics, right? Here's what they do. Oh, they're winning. Okay, let's do. They're not always going to win, but hey, let them create this stuff and go. And like you said, as long as they're in the realm of budget and whatever other, kind of high level restraints there are, they stay inside that. Let them run with the ball, because they're going to run faster and they're going to hit success a lot sooner, in my opinion, when you're able to do that. And then that collaboration among three people strengthens that team. So there's even some, I'll kind of call them intangibles. They're tangible or not. You're going to create greater employee retention by that, because they have purpose, right? They get the recognition for doing this stuff, right? They can get great pay for that, right? We're looking for those things: purpose, recognition, and quality pay. These all build into that kind of stuff. So it really strengthens the foundation of your company. So also when you're hiring people for these reasons. Are they critical thinkers? Can they lead this stuff? Can they delegate this power, if you will? Can they operate in those kind of situations? Do they have experience with that? So, and I know I could go on forever, but it's like, you know what I mean? It's like, it's really cool to hear this broken down like this, Brandon, because there's so many more benefits to things like this when you create this kind of structure than people think about. They just think it's another foo-foo thing to do and you're all inclusive and blah, blah. It's not, right? It's like, this is like real world function. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and you said one of the key points of it, which I guess it kind of is an intangible, but you can measure it. Absolutely. And that's the job satisfaction that people have from operating within this level of trust and responsibility and ownership. If you compare two companies side by side, and let's say you're within a company that operates this way, you have say. It's a safe place. Like, psychologically, you feel safe to voice your opinion, because you know that everybody's operating in the best interest of not themselves, but the company and the mission. And you're thinking about leaving for company B, and it's a dictatorship, for lack of better terms, and everything flows through the CEO, and it's the ultimate yes or the ultimate no, and you just have to get in line and operate. I don't care if that company's paying 50,000 more a year. Like, why would you put yourself in that situation? And we've seen that over and over too. When companies operate in this original format where people have autonomy, they have a say, it's very hard for people to leave. I mean, it's got to be for like a move, or it's got to be a death or something significant for people to leave those organizations. The closer you can get to that, and the more autonomy and I don't want to say power, but the more responsibility you can give to people, the more likely they are to stay for less money than your competitors are paying. People want that more than they want money. Powerful, powerful strategy.
It's when people say they're leaving because of the money,
They're lying.
they're lying to you.
Yeah. They're
See,
leaving because they don't
it's a
like you.
total lie. Yeah, the culture sucks. You're horrible. I'm out of here. Okay, I don't care how much. So it's one of those. It is what it's like. We kind of get it, right? I mean, a lot of us like you get it. If you don't, you're not paying attention.
Yeah,
Okay, or you
I
probably
do
have a
remember.
rotten culture at your business.
Oh, absolutely. I had one employee. This was a number of years ago in a business that I've since sold, and we just didn't get along, right? And he finally came to me and said, "Yeah, I'm leaving for this other company." I was like, "What made you decide that?" And he said, "Well, they pay a little bit more." And I was like, "Man, I didn't say this to him, but I thought to myself, thank God you finally realized you don't like me, because I didn't know how to tell you that I didn't like you either." But it was the money excuse, right? And you see right through.
Yeah, and it's an important indicator. If you're getting that, if you have a higher rate than I'll quote normal turnover, you got to look inside.
Hmm.
It's not because you don't pay enough. It's not. It's, you have to look. You have a bad culture. You might have one person. I have a company I work with. One person was the problem. 8 years. Okay, keep it around. You're talking. You're living with cancer for 8 years and not treating it. Okay, like that's what that comes down to. And everyone will tell you, "Oh, I'm leaving because that guy." People last 2 days, 4 days, a month or two, and they couldn't figure it out when everyone's telling them it's this clown. He's a jackleg. Okay, the guy treats him terrible. He's all afraid they're going to take his job and all this stuff. It's like this and like it, dude. Whatever. But yeah, and that's usually the issue. And as soon as you fix it, oh look, everybody's happy. But you
No,
really
yeah.
have to inspect. You really have to inspect that culture. It's a somewhat of a buzzword when you say culture. Most people don't know how to create a quality. What does that actually mean? And you just gave great methods to begin that. I'm the same thing. Really have a true company vision, right? Where people have something they're all working towards. They understand the purpose they're there for, right? And they get it. Things like that are really, really critical. And then to go back kind of what we started with the systems and the simplicity aspect, I think when you're able to blend that with that kind of culture and you have that mindset of breaking it down to being simple, do you find, Brandon, that decisions are made much quicker in a lot of these kind of these
Absolutely.
bigger companies?
And it's not even just quickly. It's quickly, of course, accurately, more efficient,
Nice.
with a greater benefit for more people. There's so many other outcomes, but people are confident to make decisions too. It's not, we're not slowed down because we're afraid that something's wrong. When you have, and you spoke about this on my show, my podcast at length, the vision piece. Like when you have that so clearly identified, and people live and die by it, so to speak, not to be overly dramatic, but you just hold that up and say, is this thing I need to decide on going to get me there quicker or not at all? Okay, decision made. Like it's not that
Right.
complicated. So
Right.
yeah, having that North Star, we call it navigation. There's the mission, vision, core values, the rules of the game, so to speak. When you have that North Star and people are clear on it and they've bought into it, that's the other part. You have to make sure they're bought in, but everything else just becomes so much easier.
Yeah, it really does. And I just want people to add this as a takeaway because so often we're complicating things, and a lot of times because of our understanding is far different. I know we mentioned this before, but than those working for us, right? They're in a completely different position. You said earlier, Brandon, no one's going to think like the owner. If everyone thought like the owner, well, they'd be owners, right? Like we have to understand where you are unique animals in that sense, right? But the problem is more like an animal, say a lion. I use this as a like I described freedom. Okay, a lion's free. You open the gate to his cage, the lion's free. He's going to go out and do whatever he wants. He's going to snarf this person. He can do whatever he wants. He's a picnic with all the food. I can go eat it. Right? Is that free? Okay, so I use it with like liberty is like, okay, I'm out of the cage, but that's not my food. I'm not going to eat it. Okay, so there's a difference. So when we don't know how to empower these people, like we can't just have free reign. I had a discussion the other day with a business, and it's a family business, air quote family. Okay, and I'm trying to help them understand, like what you're doing when you have an owner doing, let's call it small engine repair. Okay, you've got this big operation, and an owner's doing that, but refuses to document their time. And do you know why? Because he's an owner and he's going to take a 20-minute coffee break. He's going to take a ride and see his mother. I don't know. He's going to go to the long lunch because he's an owner. Okay. The most inefficient place for him to be is repairing stuff. Like you need to be working on other things. So it's this whole personality issue that has to be taken into consideration as well. Like you understand, like that position, that's not the guy who should be doing this, even though he can do it. And maybe he's even really good at it. You got one of the highest paid people doing a lower paying job, right? So again, it's a placement issue as well.
Yeah, well, it's great if he knows how to do it. Document it. Go train somebody else. That would also probably light him up to train other people, to apprentice them, so to speak, and have them do it, I guarantee, 10 times better than him in a very short period of time.
Yeah. It's take your inner genius, put it on paper, build a training program around it, roll it out, watch your life change for the better. Like, I know you're really good at it, but do you really want to be bending over this machine 8 hours a day? Probably not.
Some people do, and I don't want to discount that either, because there's two sides, right? There's if you started the company, you're the founder, you're passionate about it, you shouldn't be doing the low paid work. Believe me, I see that. I've been there, because I'm not so much of a doer as I am a leader. I know that about myself. On the other side, you have people that love the doing, like may really love the small engine repair. And I can get behind you on that as long as you hire a CEO and you have somebody actually leading this ship. And I've seen that too. And that's what we really help people identify with our human op technology is where's the best fit for you uniquely and all the people on your team. Because I mean, we've had that conversation. It can be a hard conversation. Generally in business, we want to say the owner or the founder needs to be the CEO. I say just pause 3 minutes and we'll either design a very unique CEO position for you that doesn't drain your energy and isn't antithetical to how you were designed, or we're going to find a person to put in that seat. Because you can you could be the head of sales, like you can go be a salesperson, you could be the small engine repair person, but we need a leader driving this ship forward because the rest of the people here need a leader. So you kind of have two options, but it always requires somebody to be in the leadership role.
Yeah, I like that approach, Brandon, because I would imagine the challenge, and I've kind of run into it, is getting that person to accept that someone's going to be over them. Like not in kind of the literal sense, but technically I know they're not because you're actually the founder, but you want to go hang out with this. So that can be a tough transition. But I've also seen it where the people who love doing the thing, like they've moved into kind of the CEO role and they're doing that, but they're still very hands-on, which means, and I've had billionaire clients that know to do this. They're first to show up still at 75 years old, last to leave. They know everyone who works there. They're on the floor. They're putting their hands on things, right? They're seeing stuff come off the line and they're going, okay, well, maybe you could tweak this or that. They keep this high level hands-on, if you will, right? People are still running it and everything else. Like I can see that working because that is actually what they like.
Absolutely.
Like they want, and they can't be completely removed.
Yeah.
Because they'll be miserable, right?
Let's put them back in that triangle, right? I mean, you can, even if you delegate the CEO, the leadership role, you can't be the CEO and the COO and the CMO at the same time. And that's sort of a little bit different example, but it's just to illustrate, you can't be doing all these different things. You can't be a billionaire and be working on the production line all day long if you're also the one that's supposed to lead the direction of the company. And I'm quite sure that client of yours was not doing both of those things.
Absolutely.
But you can go
100%.
down, and you should go down. That's where your people are. Like that's where the ideas come from. If you are a really good visionary, so look at some of the best visionaries in the world: Elon Musk, Steve Jobs, right? I mean, they go to the factory floor. Like they understand how things work. They want to find those nuances that's going to be the competitive edge for them, but they don't stay there. They come back up, or they find their place in that decision triangle. And they say, okay, I'm a lot of vision. I'm a lot of execution. Somebody please make a decision because I'm not the guy for it. As long as you have that balance, then you can step into that unique style of leadership. But yeah, I don't want to be one of the people that preaches, if you're the founder, you need to be the CEO and the leader. You need to find your unique leadership style or delegate the role of leadership, and then you will
Listen,
be happy.
yeah, I think Brandon, the CEO role is not a founder. You might go CEO to founder. Founder's a
Not
very
always, yeah.
different thing,
Right.
right? So, I mean, it's like, again, my goal is always, well, if I start out as me and I hire my first person, second person, 50th person, like we've delegated, we've trained them, they're doing their thing. I keep doing that. Pretty soon as CEO, who's going to be the CEO? My clients are getting ready to, we got the COO. Now we're getting ready to transfer him out of CEO, right? We're going on the next thing. We have multiple businesses now. Now we're doing all this stuff, right? So there's a progression you're going to take depending on how you want to grow, that you have to be ready to move from that position. You can be there, we'll just call it temporary. Temporary could be 3 years, could be 5 years, but then you're going to move out of that. So I think it goes back to the original discussion of like innovation, the delegation, how we're actually performing, where we want to go with this company, right? I think also talking about like a Musk or Steve Jobs and those guys on the floor, they go to the floor to ask questions. They're just not going, let me just watch. You took too long of a break. They're not doing that stuff,
No, they're not
They're going to ask
micromanagers.
questions, right? So they're trying to get feedback, which might even just be challenging their own people on the floor. Like,
Hmm.
just, well, kind of break this down for me because I'm not really getting how you're doing this. And they tell them, and go, oh, okay, totally makes sense. What about, could you do that? And they'll be like, no, you do that, this is going to happen. Okay, never mind. And they move along, right? But they're encouraging them to be thinking and making sure their own people are sharp. That's a great role for guys like that, right? Your hands on, you get it, you started this, but I love that I do the same thing, go out, work with my guys. Now I got to the point where my guys just told me to go buy them lunch and come back. Like I'm just in the way, right? So like, we don't do that now. Can you stop doing that? I'm like, I'm just here to help. Go get lunch.
Okay, go help. Go get me something to
And I'm
eat.
like, and to me, I go, this is what a great response. I'm like, dude, that you just made you made the whole year for me. You don't need me.
That's a
That's what I
beautiful place
wanted
to
to
get
hear.
to.
It's like, good. I'll go. Yeah, go get us more jobs. That's what he said. Go get more work for us. Okay, so we can keep doing this. We like this. We don't need you. Okay, so it's really good. So you really have to put your mind in the right place on this, right, Brandon? It's really
Hmm.
do you run into that kind of that mind shift, mindset pivot? Is that a difficult thing to overcome in the beginning, or are they kind of ready for that when they bring you guys in?
It depends, because a lot of times people will come to us and say the common things. We want to grow our business, we want to scale, we want more leads, more revenue, more profit, blah blah blah. It's all the same thing. It boils down to, I don't know what's broken. Please help me fix it. So one of the first things that we're going to do is, well, we do two side by side assessments. One is the business assessment that we do. We want to really get to the root cause of the problem. It's 50 very simple questions, and we can pinpoint exactly which of the 10 disciplines your problem is and where things aren't linked. So we can get to the root cause. It's never what you think it is. And it's usually a relief for people. Say, I had 7 people tell me it was a marketing problem. You're telling me it's a systems problem in our fulfillment. Thank God you finally said something different. Like that, it's something along those lines. The other piece is the human op assessment, understanding who you are, who your team is, who the people on your team are, and then what your natural strengths and gifts are, and what are the things you should be delegating and getting off your plate. Those two things combined is, we're all doing something that's outside of our zone of genius, if you will. They're draining us, they're causing stress, causing fatigue. We want to take those things and give them to the people who actually get energized by those things. So we want to eliminate what a traditional role looks like. CEO, after we get done, might look completely different than a traditional CEO because it's custom, it's very unique. We more care about the individual rather than the role title and the org chart. So these two things, when we kind of expose them to people and say, okay, you answered these honestly. Can I confirm that? Yes, yes. Okay, great. Here's what we saw. Here's what we found. Your business is broken in this spot, and your people are broken in these spots. Here's our proposed changes. Try this for a week and let me know how it feels. And it's never wrong because the human side is backed by science. So when they actually settle in, they try it, they trust it, then they embrace it. The only time we have a mindset issue is when we hold on to past patterns. And we actually just had this in our company. We had a salesperson who was so tied to sales needs to produce a certain quota. And if I'm not producing, I'm a useless human being. Whoa, pal. Nobody said that. You said that. Like that's how the rest of the world wants you to think. That is not what we said to you. And he just couldn't get him out of this cycle, and he burned himself out because he thought he wasn't producing enough. And it's just, that part does take work. But if you just release
Mhm.
and say, okay, I'll try this, I'll trust it, I'll operate like this for at least a test period, we get buy-in so fast, and then people question how they ever did it any other way.
Right. Yeah, I love it. I love it. That's so more and more now. And we talked about AI earlier, but this whole fear of being replaced, which some people will, there's a lot of this to be replaced. Okay. So what? Okay. There's plenty of other things to do. I think the last thing I heard, last kind of stat was someone today over their lifetime is going to have 11 different careers, not jobs, 11 different careers. Okay. So buckle up. All right. You better stay in learning mode. Okay. That's a lot of new stuff. But I think what it is having this openness to understand that people, again, systems are awesome, but you still have to plug people into them. Okay. McDonald's had the finest systems, right? Back in the day. You know what they couldn't do? Get the people operating them.
Yep.
They still struggle with the people. They had all this perfect million milkshake making whatever it is, and everything else, but they couldn't get the people operating it. So they had to like revert back to dealing with people. But where are they today? Now they have people lists. McDonald's, right? They got no people at all. So I don't know where that pendulum is swinging right now, but
And their
so I
ice
don't
cream
know. But
machine is still broken. Do you believe that?
that's right.
Can't
That's
get this
right.
thing fixed.
Yes, I just want an ice cream, if that's what it actually is. Whatever that is that comes out of there, looks like Dairy Queen, but it's not. Give me some of that. But yeah, you're right. But I, I, I think as entrepreneurs, as business owners, we need to refocus on our people. Okay,
Preach.
and this whole episode was about that. I don't think that was our plan, but that's what it ended up being. Okay, well, we didn't have a plan, so I guess it was the plan. But it's really what you got to look at it, because people are getting so between screen time and this disconnection of human capital. There's a major disconnection on this stuff, and I think it's hurting business. It's
Oh yeah.
actually really ruining business. So guys like you, Brandon, people like me, when we get in there and like, wait, we got to bring this back. We got to work with what we've got, so to speak, but we can turn this around and turn it to our advantage with less. Okay. The problem is they just throw in people at it. Oh, you got a pulse. You can work here. You start to be more selective now. What things like AI and these other advancements are doing is forcing you to be really fine tuned on your selection process, on your hiring process. And it's not, do they have the greatest skills? Do they have the ability to adapt to a system that we have? Can they be assimilated into our culture? Are they problem solvers, right? Can they overcome this? Because these are going to shift in their position over the next 5 years. Can they adapt, or are they going to be good for a year until the new stuff comes along and they bail because they don't want to change, right? So we kind of brought up all these points in this, what I think has been awesome. So I want the entrepreneur, that business, start thinking like, you have to think more than the hire today, right? We got to understand the longevity of this. Like I always try to find out, well, what's your anticipated retention rate? Is it a year? Is it 2 years? Another term I use, what's your ROI on that hire? When do they become an asset? Right? We've done training. This is at 2 months, 6 months. They got to stay 2 years, and you got your money's worth. Which so you look at it that way too. But what I like about today was it's past that. We're not really that's important, but it's like, how do these people adapt to these new systems, to this new way of doing things? How do we create more leaders from our existing leaders so they can run these things? So really good, really, really good stuff. So hit us with some final thoughts, Brandon, just kind of on the whole scope of this. I know I just did by accident, but give us.
Well, the good news is I agree with all of your thoughts. So I'm going to say I like those thoughts. Let's use those. But also, what you're saying about AI and the evolution of business, it's very true. It will replace jobs. It will eliminate jobs. And that's, again, a good thing. We've both said that multiple times. I saw a stat the other day. AI is anticipated to create 95 to 97 million jobs by 2027. So yeah, it's going to replace some, but we currently don't have the workforce to fill those 97 million. That to me is a bigger concern than the jobs it's going to eliminate. What we need to do as leaders, as business owners, is identify in our hiring, like you said, not the people that have the skills, but who has the potential. What human beings have the potential to grow and scale with my vision of this company? I don't care if you can do the job today. Almost every single job in the world is trainable. You have to have the person capable of being trained and then also elevating and growing with you, who's not going to get uncomfortable and push back and just grind the gears of your company. So that's what we're passionate about. That's what we do at a scientific level at HumanOp. We can tell you who those people are and how they will scale with you. And that's just going to be one of the most valuable pieces of running a company in the next couple of years, is truly understanding the human beings, because it doesn't matter how good AI is. If someone doesn't put that AI in place, it's not doing anything. So let's really focus on our people and our human beings and get back to basics in business.
I love it. And so for full clarity, okay, Human Ops does that. So give us a really high, quick view of exactly what Human Ops do. So I want the people that contact you to actually want to like know exactly what they're talking about, because I think you're bringing extreme value to the marketplace for these business, for everything we talk to. So let's make sure I have a full understanding as well as our listeners. So real quick, let's do that. Then we'll get the websites and all that stuff out there.
Yeah, I'll give you the 30-second high-level version. Best way to think about this is a personality assessment. We've all taken them. We've all at least know vaguely what that is. Now throw out what you think about it, and it's a personality assessment on steroids. So it's the only one in the world that is based on physical law, so how a person actually physically looks and shows up, and what that means on a quantifiable mathematical level. So we have an algorithm that basically can reveal scientifically how you're designed and wired. We can predict how you will operate. We understand what emotions you will be in, what the strong state and the weak state of you looks like, how you are compatible with both roles, tasks, but also other people in an organization. So the easiest way to boil all of that down and say, okay, that sounds fancy and also crazy all at the same time. Yeah, I got you. I fully understand that. It is the owner's manual for yourself in your pocket, and it's absolutely free. So if you go to humanop.com, you can download our app, take the assessment, and it will reveal you to you in a way that you've probably never been seen before in your life. And that's what I would encourage everybody to do. Outside of the business context and everything else, just do it for you first. Interact with our AI, ask it questions about yourself, see how to optimize yourself first, and then we could talk about bringing this to your company. But yeah, it's very, very powerful.
Awesome. Yeah, I would say it's super cool and super creepy all at the same time.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
honestly, that's
It's
how I
like,
describe it. It's like, this is the creepiest way you'll ever see yourself. I promise.
I had a friend doing that, right? He's like going through, I don't know if it was ChatGPT or whatever. He got to a point where he goes, I had to shut it down. I had to close the
It knows
computer.
too much.
I was scared. It knew way too much about me. He goes, I'm telling you, like, I got freaked out. I'm at home and I'm like, oh my gosh, like someone broke in the house. You know what I mean? So it was, and he's not, he's not new to the stuff. So it's pretty cool. So yeah, I definitely encourage everyone to take that personal assessment. Self-awareness is one of the number one traits of entrepreneurs, right? High levels of self-awareness. And if you can get better at it with a simple tool like this, okay, the benefits are not just to you. They're going to be to everyone around you who works for you and whoever you come in contact with. So, Brandon, this has been super great. Knew it would be. That's why we don't plan things here, because greatness doesn't come from plans. Okay, I could be wrong there, but I'm just saying.
That's antithetical to everything you just said, too. I love
That's
it.
right. That's right. So that's how I roll. Okay, but this hour was phenomenal. I loved it. So I just want to thank you for taking the time and giving us all this time, and your expertise and knowledge has been just awesome. Yeah, we might have to do a part 2, because there's so much more. We can go into details next time. It'll be great.
I like it. Well,
We
thank
know
you for
the
having me. This
details
was a
now.
lot of fun.
Absolutely. And for everyone listening, we'll see you on the next STS podcast.
And don't forget, revenue feeds the ego, profit feeds the family. So if you want to see how I can show you at least $100,000 in hidden annual profits in less than 3 minutes, and not only show you where, but how to create that 100K in 6 months or less without additional advertising or marketing spend, guaranteed, just go to sharpenthespearcoaching.com. See how truly simple it is. That's sharpenthespearcoaching.com. Do it now.